All right, all right, all right. So I've been streaming on Twitch since January, and I've had one visitor like 2 weeks ago. And I already have 46 subscribers on my YouTube channel, so I thought Twitch doesn't seem to be gaining any traction. The project I was doing that seemed sort of video game like at the time has been completed. That's the snare drum solo you can see in my videos, and let's see if any subscribers or anyone passing by wants to join in on the live stream here on YouTube instead. So we're trying this out. It's office hours is what I'm. Is that what I called it? Let me see. uh, your channel. Yeah, can I just go to it? So you just go to youtube.com/Joe Bareback. And he's live. Composer's Office Hours, Creativity Workshop. Okay, so that's what I'm calling it each week. And this week, the Creativity Workshop is that I'm going to do a little behind the scenes dive into Once in a Blue Moon. That's the 30-minute dance. I think I called it EDM, electronic dance music. That's not a style of music I listen to very much, but it's dance music made with electronic instruments, so I figured that's what it is. Honestly, my big weakness as a musician is naming the genres I'm working in, because I don't listen to music in that way. Uh, I listen with classically trained ears, um, and I try to get interested in the craftsmanship, actually, first and foremost, I try to see if I can engage on a personal creative level. If I can't do that, I dive in and try to appreciate elements of the craftsmanship. I'm a musician. I can learn from musicians who make creations that I don't relate to. That's okay. I can appreciate that they're doing a great job. And if I can't really connect on the craftsmanship level, I might be able to connect on a community level. Anyway, I always go in assuming I can learn from people. That's a side note here. Really, I was just trying to figure out what category to name this music. But I released it on Patreon, so anyone who's watching this stream, if you're interested in hearing my latest creation, I put it on Patreon. I put a little teaser here on YouTube. I'm trying out a new way, see if I can get some traffic generated on Patreon. I got 2 subscribers right now, and they are both very close personal relations. So I'm trying to branch out here. And rather than putting the entire song on YouTube, I'm putting a teaser on YouTube, hoping, and then I put the full track for sale on Patreon. But here on this live stream, you're going to get a chance to dive in and appreciate the full track, because I'm going to, what is it? I'm going to analyze it all. I'm recording the broadcast, as you can see here. So we'll have this live event here, and then I'll probably leave up the live stream for a week or two. I haven't decided yet. I'll leave it up for a little bit, and then take it down from the YouTube page and extract just the part where I'm actually analyzing it, put that on Patreon as well. So I'm trying to figure out the workflow here to get things available for everybody, but also to have some exclusivity on Patreon so that there's, I guess, a business incentive for people to contribute their money if they're able to my livelihood, because I'm a musician. I do this professionally. The main thing I do for money is I teach. Here is the Elgin Youth Symphony Orchestras. If you know anyone who's a middle schooler or high schooler in the Elgin, Illinois, Northern Illinois area, we've had who's really interested in meeting and working with other music enthusiastic young students, this is the place to be. I was a student in it when I was in high school, so here's a little plug, because the health of that organization is connected to my financial health. They are the main way that I make money right now, and I want them to do well. Plus, I was a student in the organization back in 2002 through 2005, fall of 2002, and it's I can't say enough good things about the experience from a student perspective, and I really do love working there. I have a lot of really awesome, talented colleagues, and they create a collegial, positive work environment that is not so easy to find. So I'm happy to wear their t-shirt, plus half my wardrobe is free t-shirts that they've given me. So there it is. All right, let's dive in. I get my headphones on here, and we're gonna look at Once in a Blue Moon. I made this 30-minute track over the course of about 2 weeks, leading up to the Elgin Community Bikes Full Moon Ride on May 31st of this year, 2026. And as I get these headphones in, kind of wondering if I should set up my microphone, but I'm going low tech today. It was a very busy, difficult day yesterday. Got home pretty late, just before midnight. So it is, we're just gonna prevent perfection from being the enemy of good enough. Hopefully this microphone's good enough. Oh yeah, it looks like it's working. This is what I want. We're gonna pull up the project here. Get a new window. Where did I put that project? I might have put it under movies. I didn't even know what I was calling this thing at first. May 20th. I think that's what I first called it. May 20th. Ableton Live. Well, I guess this is the very first thing we're trying to figure out. Is the name of the track. Okay. Where I put the track in my files. Is it under a journal? I don't think so. Let me see. Here's what we'll do. Rather than doing that, we're just going to open up Live. It's going to be under my recent files, rather than showing everybody what all my files are. All right, file. A little bit of fuzz sound in my headphones. All right, open recent sent. Yeah, May 20th, 2026.als. This is it. I had no idea what I was going to call it at first. But the full moon ride was on May 31st, 2026. Given that late date in the month, you might have gathered that it was the second full moon of the month, hence the blue moon. Opening samples. Some media files are missing. Again, this has been a problem this entire project. Oh, the mouth clicks. Why are the mouth clicks missing? All right, show me these mouth clicks. Okay, sample offline, but this one's online. Let's hear it. Solo that voice. All right, this one's working. This one's not. I don't know why. We're just going to copy. Whoops. Copy. Paste. paste. All right. So what you see here in Ableton Live, I'm going to move some of this down. See if you can see everything before I yammer on. All right, I've got this over here. I'm going to move my camera up here because a lot of the interesting stuff is happening in the bottom of the screen. All right. So in Ableton, you have two views. This is called the session view, arrangement view. Arrangement view is what you would normally see in a digital audio workstation. You have a bunch of different tracks. They play for a set period of time. They kind of go one track then the other. And here you can see all the tracks. This is as condensed as they make it. The thump may sort of condense things so you can see the full shape of everything. This is what I recorded. And this is what created the full track. So, get rid of the master. Oops, we'll do this. Don't need the in out, don't need the return tracks. All right, so now you can actually see the entire song. Down here along this timeline, you can see how many minutes have passed. So the whole thing's about 30 minutes long. You can see the thump goes on the entire time. There is one moment when I begin the thump at like the quietest, they call it negative infinity decibels. And I guess I should have the chat nearby, right? Let's see. OBS. Nobody's here chatting yet, but let's move that. Can you move to another screen? Where are you? No? You're just part of OBS. All right. If someone chats, I will be trying my best to be aware of you. I'll have to keep switching back and forth. So if someone actually comes in with a question, darn it. Anyway, so you could, that sort of opened all these up. I still get surprised by what happens in this software from time to time. That happens with computers just about all the time. So each one of these things is a loop or a recorded solo. So, and what I did is created scenes, and then you can tap play and the entire scene goes. So for example, let me go down here. The bass drop. Whoops. I gotta get rid of the solo voice. Here we go. Why is it still soloed? Everything's supposed to be playing here. Let's see. What's the reason that was so quiet? not sure. Anyway, I have a bunch of triggers here. That's probably not the best one to show you what was happening. Here, we'll check out this where you can see, once we got down here, you hit the scene on the right side here. You hit the play button. All of the ones that are in here, in this, what do you call this row, they all play. So I've got my 3 kick drum sounds. I call them kick drum. It should just be thump. I didn't actually use a kick drum. I'll get into that. We got this groove here. For some reason is not making any sound. I was wondering what the heck's happening. The gain is on. This is weird. This is not making any sound. What the heck? Anything making sound? You know what? This has happened to me before when I'm trying to show this. Very frustratingly, this has happened before when I'm trying to show this program to students in lessons. I pull it up and I say, hey, check out this thing I worked on. And I pull it up and it's not working the way it works every other time I pull up the program. And not literally every other time, because it happens when I try to show people how this goes. Okay. Let me release my frustration a little bit. Whew. All right. Where are we at on this stream? Anybody here yet? Let's see if I click on this. Moderation helps everyone feel safe. To build a positive live chat experience for you and your viewers, choose who can participate. Close. Oh, here. You can... I'm trying to hear it. Yeah, so you use Ableton in Windows. Trust me, it's 100% versus reason you use scenes. Yeah, so I used scenes. This is awesome. Hello, Rico. I used scenes because it allows me to combine voices, and this is what I was going to try to show you. I might just relaunch this program and see if it loads everything. Don't save any changes, please. So I'm going to relaunch it, see if it makes it better. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go through a little bit more of a problem-solving issue. But I use the scenes because I can experiment with different combinations of voices as I'm putting the piece together. Then I find the ones that are the sound I want and the right level of density in the voices. And then I hit media files are missing again. The mouse clicks again. Then when I find the voice combinations I like, when they're playing, I can set up a scene and then it's there. And then when I put together this full thing here, I had originally nothing in the session view. Is that what they call this? I keep getting these mixed up. Let me pull this up here. We have the arrangement view. I have nothing in the arrangement view. I go in the session view. I click and I hit record. And then what it does is records everything I do electronically. So then I hit here and it records everything. I hit the next one, it records everything. It looks like I'm going to have to manually figure this stuff out, why it's not making any sound. Because right now you should be hearing So why is there no sound here? We've got gain, we've got a track. What does this mean? Automation arm, yeah, that works, we want that. I go here, let me get this out of here. Let's hear what happens if I just go from the beginning here. Yeah, so you can actually hear it. All of the things, all of these are triggered when when I'm recording and I'm in the session view and I hit the scene. And so then I construct the piece one scene at a time, and then I plan out what is it that I'm going to do. And then this that you hear and you see in the arrangement view, right? Arrangement view. Yeah, I got the name right. In the arrangement view, this is all like basically a DJ performance. This is all of the computer inputs, complete with any sort of shifts I do in the gain, the panning, any mouse movement that I click and do, it records. All these little red buttons here, these are automations. I either programmed these into the loop under the envelopes. Let's see if I can find any that have one. Does this have one? Yeah, so this you can see I programmed in a track volume here, automation, so that the volume, the gain on the track goes up, or track volume goes up when I'm doing my 5 o'clock shadow rubs, goes down when I'm doing my, my mouth drumming, cheek drumming, just because this was way softer than this. But besides having those details programmed into each little part of the scene, I'm going to stop it here so I can think. It's hard for me to think with the music going. Besides having all those things programmed into these loops, I can also in real time change the gain. So you see at the very first one, the very first scene, there's nothing. There's nothing in any of the voices. It's just a note for myself that says scene 7, thump, negative infinity, all tracks on. So before I started the performance, I went to scene 7, go to the bass, thump, and I brought this all the way down. I'm going to put that on save. So when I clicked this scene, boop, while I was recording and doing the performance, I hit the scene and then gradually brought the bass up. Now let's take a look over here in the arrangement view at that moment of scene 7. We look here. Oh my. So then, is that this right here? You can see, let's look at the automation. We look here at the track volume. Where is there automation on that track? Right here. Maybe not. Well, was it track volume or was it, oh, it wasn't that, it was the gain. Let me see if I have that on a different, show automated parameters only. Well, yeah, here I am again trying to show you what I did. But I'm pretty sure it was, let's see, scene 7, yeah, you have all three, I had the thinned out texture, so that's here, and then right here when all of them came back in, I gradually increased the volume. I was going to say that it recorded it. Well, I'm going to close my door. I was going to say that it recorded it, and I know in the playback it does, so I start here. And the bass has no volume. All right, you start hearing the bass get louder. For some reason on this view it's not showing exactly what happened, but you could hear it with your ears. The bass got louder. So it started from nothing and it got louder. That's why I use the session view. Yeah, I'll see if anyone else has a chat. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's not my way to compose music. Cool. See, yeah. Why do they need me to sign in all the time? I am already signed in elsewhere. All right. I'll just have to go back and forth with Firefox. Thanks for bearing with me. Yeah, we all have different ways of composing. I use many different methods depending on what I'm composing for and what type of experience I want with the creative workflow. Yeah, looks like my video is not working, or I've got it paused. Is that what's happening? Oh yeah, I just got it paused on my thing. And that's okay. I don't need to watch myself. Yeah. So other times I'm composing with paper and pencil. Like, for example, yesterday morning, I was working on some research for an opera I'm hoping to write about the Haymarket tragedy. And I just have a tiny melody sketched out here that I noodled around on the marimba, and then I have a bunch of notes. Because this is a more long-term project. The 30 minutes of dance music, my goal when I set out was to make an hour of music in 2 weeks. I got halfway there in 2 weeks. So just accept what came out. But because I was composing quickly, I was not paying super attention to writing everything down. I'm not having anyone else play it off the page or anything. It's basically written in this way so that one person can create all the music, because I didn't have anyone to collaborate with, and I wanted to have a full sound. So yeah, that's why I like to use the session view. I'm going to go back here in the arrangement view and show you a few things. So I started out with an introduction. I'll go back to the beginning here. Starts out with just, and this is the part that I recorded in the lobby at DePaul University waiting for a concert. So this is sort of the beginning of the dance. Music was like, let's get this groove going. You can sort of hear the echo sound. I'm going to pause before the bass comes in, which would be right here. Or what I could do is maybe loop and talk about it. There we go. Initially I thought this is enough bass, but very quickly I realized if it's going to dance and have enough bass to project outside on this speaker, but outside especially, I needed to have a boosted bass sound. So what I did is I grabbed my Bowron. I'll show you that. Here's my Bowron. I grabbed this thing. I was pretty nicely tuned today. It's nice and humid. That day it wasn't so humid, so I tuned it down using these pegs to a low pitch. Stuck the microphone set up the microphone so it was like right here, because if you have the microphone close you get more bass in the sound, so you get a bass boost just based on the proximity. With a dynamic microphone, that effect is eliminated with like an omnidirectional microphone, but with those directional microphones the bass is amplified when it's close. So I have the microphone right next to the head, and I played it with my finger, along with the metronome, and listening to that groove that I had done with my mouth. And then when I liked how it lined up, I recorded for 30 seconds, just boom, 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 boom. When I had a series of 4 boom, 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 booms that I liked, I thought these really move. I just cut those out and looped and made those the loop. That's the bass thump. Then I'm going to show you 2 more things I did on it. The pitch was of the Bowron that I liked. The resonance was just about a B natural, but that B natural is it's like a sharp B natural, and that was going to conflict with the key centers that I had already written, because by that time I had written this G minor, this B flat stuff, and B natural. I'll show you on the keyboard here. So I had G minor, G, B flat, D, then I had B flat minor, B flat, D flat, F, and a B natural is going to conflict with those chords. And so I took this sound and I lowered it 1 1/4 steps, because it was like a sharp B natural. I lowered it down to here. And then that B flat fits with the other keys. It fits with G minor. It fits with B flat minor. I knew I was planning to go to D minor. And I was like, okay, let's, B flat is the 6th scale degree of D minor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I was like, it's going to fit. And if you lower the pitch a lot, you get some more distortion in the sound. And if you only lower it a little bit, it still sounds like a drum. Now I'm going to show you, I tripled it, because this was the original here. Here's the complete sound. I have to wait for the bass to come back in. Here's the complete sound. Hopefully you have headphones on and can hear that. The original is just in the center. I wanted it to have more all-encompassing size, so I took these here and I gave them a let's see, what did I do with them? I think they are panned a little bit. Go down here. Yeah, so the outer ones are panned to the outside. 31 left and right. And then the main one is in the center. The 31 left and right are lower volume, so they're just kind of taking that center sound and fattening it up. And I thought that was important to just have this bass that permeates the whole sound. Because if you've got dance music, that thump, if you're going to hear nothing else, you want to hear that thump that just keeps on going. All right, now I'm going to get rid of this loop, and we're going to listen as the bass drops. And you're going to hear some chords and the bass line, and then a solo comes in. One of the nice things about the session view, is that what I'm calling this? Yeah, the session view is you could put on automations. That's what these vertical line things are. And that's under the launch category here. Follow action. Next, which means go to the next track lower. After it is played 2 times. So the very first one, 2 times, then 2 times. Then 9 times. I need 9 times because that's about the length of this mouth pops. That thing. So here's the solo. Show where it is. Let me see if we can actually look at it on here. Yeah. Now, this is an octave. I did not record that like this because I am not really a pianist. I'm a percussionist, and I don't yet have an electronic keyboard MIDI trigger. So I did that single line when I thought it was the climax. I was like, let me add some more intensity the same way that organists do, which is just add octaves. Let me show you a little bit more about this solo. I think I can only... How do I see these? I go to notes. There we go. What you can see here is that you could look down here and see the volume, the velocity of those keys. When I copied and pasted, they were all the same volume, but if I do this, you can see that all of those are a lower volume than the original line. The original line does this. I did the octave displacement in my original solo to put some interest in there, but then I added all of this layer, again at a lower volume than the main line that I wanted you to hear. And then this is an even lower volume because it's just adding a little bit of intensity to these climactic moments of the original improvised solo. Let's see, any other detail I'm gonna put on here? The MIDI controller. So this is the modulation wheel. You can see how much I did with that. I can't remember exactly what effect it had, but that's this wheel right here. So I have the pitch bend wheel. This one is spring loaded, and then the modulation wheel is not spring loaded. And I have the option when I'm designing these digital instruments to assign different parameters to each of those wheels. All right, that was my first modulation. We are now in B flat minor. Let's listen back to that modulation again, because this is like the most basic way to modulate, which is just go directly there, but rather than have it be a super surprising modulation, what did I do? I took out any of the pitch material, let the ear just listen to the drums and the groove, and then I just switched keys. There was no creatively shifting chords and smoothly modulating. We'll get to that later in here, because I did do that on one of my transitions. But as I said, I'm a percussionist. I'm not trained in making modulations smooth live in the moment the way church organists are. I'm slow. I have an entire highlight video on Twitch that I haven't put up on YouTube yet. I'll get to that. That shows me spending like half an hour figuring out how to change from B flat minor to D minor. I'm very happy with how that one went, but church organists would go, oh yeah, you just go, bam, bam, bam. There's 3 chords and you're there. You've switched from what is B flat minor is 5 flats down to 1 flat. In a matter of moments. The key signatures I'm talking about. D flat, B flat minor is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All 5 of those are flat. And in D minor, you just have the B flat. So that's what I mean by that. All right, let's take a listen back to this modulation. The solo finishes up. Wow, 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 wow. So that's what the mod wheel is doing. You can see wow, 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 wow. That's changing. I think it's like some sort of filter frequency or something. Okay, bring back the mouth pops and the face rub. But we took out most of the pitch material. We just have the chords. Automated there. But you can hear that I faded the volume on here. So we still have the B flat thump on the drum, but most people are just hearing that as a thump, and now suddenly we're in a new key. The B flat still works in this key, the B flat thump, because now the new key is B flat minor. It went from being the 3rd in G minor, 1, 2, 3, here's G, to being 1, or the tonic, in B flat minor, 1. Same pitch works in both keys very well. Now, I wanted a floaty feeling here. We're about 4 minutes in. Ran out of batteries in my mouse. And I'm all out of batteries, so I'll just trackpad it. But we went from that excited groove, and remember, I'm thinking about a bike ride when I'm designing this. We start out, everyone's excited. Now, we're either climbing the hill or we're going down a hill or something. So I wanted something that was sort of floaty to give us that lift feeling that you get when you're flying along on a bicycle. I want to show you this right here. I first used this. This is using a digital instrument called Sampler. Let's see if I can find it. Instruments, Sampler. Oh, I should be able to just look at it here, right? Look at the sample. And what I did is I took the microphone and went a single note into there. And then this program, Sampler, takes that sound and you move it around the keyboard and it modulates it. But it just plays back the sample. And if you're at the pitch where you're saying it, it sounds just like your voice. If you're higher,
it moves the sound of it higher. But it just plays the sample back faster. Just like if you ever played with a tape, like a reel-to-reel tape, you play it faster, the pitch goes higher, and the sample goes faster. You play it slower, the pitch is lower, and the sample plays slower. So we get all this cool overlaid rhythms that are totally unrelated to the groove, and that's where we get that float feeling, because you have the thump, but you also have wah. You're like, all the notes are starting approximately in rhythm, but then they're moving at a speed that's unrelated to the prevailing tempo. So that's why you get that disconnect, that float. The other thing I did with it was a sustain mode. You could see this thing moving back and forth. Every time I re-trigger a note on there and hold down the key, it holds down the sample, and as it sustains, it goes forward, then it goes backwards. So it reads the sample forwards and backwards, and then it has a decay. Let's see, here's the decay pattern, and then when I release, it goes like that. So the initial attack is 0.35 milliseconds. It's not an instantaneous percussive sound, it's a slower wah, 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 wah sound. That's why I'm going to pause this here. So because of that design of the attack being a little slower, wah, wah, it contributes to the rhythmic aspect of that particular voice being nebulous, cloudy. Now, I wanted to have a richer timbre on that pitch material, and this is where my orchestration training comes in, is you're like, I like the sound of that line or that chord support, but I want to have more timbres. I don't want it to just be wah, wah. I needed to have some clarity to it, so I copied all of this. I should say all of this. And let me see if I can show you everything that's here. This is exactly what I played onto the keyboard. Just did like an octave, A sharp, A sharp. Did like an octave with my left hand, and then played a little chord on top of it. See, C sharp, F, and that should say A sharp. So it's just C sharp, F, A sharp. So that's just a B flat minor chord. And then on the other hand, boom. So it's just octave and you can see the lengths and the attacks are not lined up because I want it to be really, as I said, a nebulous attack. But then I took all of that, I copied it and pasted it onto here. I deleted some of the voices. I deleted most of those bass voices, and then I extended the chords. So if I go back to here, these are the same pitches in these two voices. And they're the same rhythms, essentially, but because the way that this voice attacks, this voice attacks with a much quicker attack pattern, though it's not super fast. We have one that's somewhat clear interacting with one that's very much unclear. So this one is an instrument called operator. And what it does is it takes 4 different electronically generated waves. So rather than using a sample of my voice, like the wah chord, it's using the same MIDI data to not trigger the wah, but to trigger instead waves that I specifically designed. Here we have 4 different waves, each with a different pattern. So the basic wave here is what they call a sine wave. This is a very smooth sound. This is what they call a noise wave, but you can see that one's much quieter. This is 20 decibels, and then this one is modulating this triangle wave. And then here is one that I created just with these 3 overtones put together. Let's look at the envelope again. And then there is an oscillation, they call it low frequency oscillator. That's giving it its wobble. And that wobble gives it a little bit of a human quality. Just like when you're singing a note and you have vibrato. Without that wobble, the electronic instruments, they don't necessarily come to life that much. This little thing here is the pattern of, I think they call it amplitude modification. So if I had them in a line, then this one would be modified by would be modifying all of them together. The way I have it here, we have 3 separate ones all going into a single one. Here you could do separate track, like 2 voices that are unrelated, but as I have it, all 3 of them go into a single voice. This is sort of the pattern of modulating. This would be 2 parallel tracks of modulation. But here's where you see that we have mod wheel. I don't know that I adjusted these at all because I just copied and pasted. And then here's the transition. All right, let's look at the solo because this is one of my favorite solos of this piece. So we'll do it with all the accompaniment. I really like this solo. This solo is using the same sound as this underwater, what did I call it? Underwater operator. So it uses the same electronic instrument I just showed you. But the only difference is I put a high frequency filter on there, so it was just the low sounds to give it a little bit of distinction from here. But you'll still hear that these 2 voices sort of lock in with one another. The solo voice stops, and then that wah sustain sort of continues the line, and I really liked the effect. Before we listen to it, you can see I did something similar to the first one. I had a single line, and then at this moment in the solo, I did copy and paste to enhance the climax. A difference here, however, I see if I could show you the pitch names. All right, F, A sharp, and F. So instead of having 3 octaves like I did in the first one, and it's basically just a single line that's doubled at the octave the way you would in an orchestra with, let's say there was a cello solo and you wanted it to have some more shine, you might put a clarinet an octave above at a quieter dynamic or something. I should say a cello section carrying a line, and you might want to have the clarinet above. And you might put the double bass below, and you have a really thick line. This is moving in parallel 4ths and 5ths. So I zoom out a little bit. Zoom some more. There we go. Here, I just, in shorter succession, deleted some of those lines to create some more melodic interest, where we're going into switching between sort of this range of the line versus like this range of the line, and then of course we have this one up here. So it's either the ones that are following the same pattern, the one that's parallel but really in a different mode, and all that's interacting with the wah, wah, and then the echo of that wah in the sustain pattern. All right, let's listen to this whole solo. Definitely my favorite solo, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the pitch material. So I'm going to zoom in till we can see the pitch names. And we're going to follow this solo along. So the big thing I did is chromatic upper neighbor resolutions. Watch the C sharp down to C. And now we're doing this descending chromatic thing. That's this. And I used the mod wheel and the pitch wheel to give that, sort of give it some breath. Here's chromatic motion here. So I'm using pitches that are outside of the key of B flat minor. That one. In order to give certain moments that have a little twist to them. And that's for expressive purposes. So that's kind of the intro of the solo. Now we're going to get interesting with the thicker, a little more angst in this sound. Real heart twist. And this is very much, I think I was like laying on the floor here playing this solo on the keyboard, just feeling the pain of, you know, my wife left me, so there it is. Kind of a crying effect. Did a lot of crying in the last few months, as one would. And then just breaths. Because emotion comes, it passes through, and then it leaves. But the groove of life continues. And you can hear that because the sounds of this underwater wah is the same as those of the solo, we hardly realize that the solo's ended. But what I'm doing here is I'm adjusting the groove to a 6/8 feel. We're not going to switch keys, we're going to switch time signatures. And so, voice by voice, I'm taking out the straight feel. Here I added in a vocal copy of this B flat bass line, but in a swing feel. So we're going to change the timbres. We're going to stay in the same B flat minor, keep the same bass line. We're changing the feel, and we're going to get chill. So when I was designing this full composition, I was really thinking about, we're going on a bike ride. I'm trying to promote my music on the bike ride, but I'm not just promoting the music. I want to meet people. I need to expand my social circle. I was very isolated in my marriage socially. So I need to get out and actually feel that support from the community, and also just actively engage. So it takes a lot of work to recover from something like that. And this is the type of part in the music when I can turn it down and talk to people. This has a volume up and volume down control. Very easy to control the volume when I'm biking along. And this is a built-in drum sound. What do they call this? Wicked Chillin'. So if I just search for Wicked instrument rack. Yeah, Wicked Chillin'. It is a built-in group of 8 sounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I didn't examine it that closely, but it just works very... I liked how it worked. One of the cool things is this right here. Random. We get a lot of randomness. I hit the same key and a different sound comes out. That added timbral variety right off the bat. Sometimes we like crack, crack, and that's with the filter. The filter has some randomness, and so that means sometimes we get a really sizzly sound, and sometimes we get a little dull sound. You can see which instruments I'm hitting. This is my drummer self coming out on the keyboard. The pitches were sound kick drum on C, and rim shot side stick, and tom, woodblock, shake C, hi-hat, and closed, and then hi-hat open or something. So there's 1, 2, 3. And I spent a lot of time in this region. So you can see all of this. Boom. For part of this, at some point I know I definitely took the bass thump sound down. So this is a long improvised drum solo. The last portion of this, somewhere over here, there's like a 4-bar section that I called Random Sounds Groove, and I just extracted it from the solo. Sort of the grooviest part of the solo. Let's see if anyone else is chatting with me right now. Not right now. Okay. It's good to see. Putting it on YouTube, I got more engagement than I did on Twitch, so looks like I'm probably going to keep going on YouTube with these streams. Now I get to show you this modulation to D minor, which I thought was pretty cool. So this is a harmonic modulation. most of these chords sit around that one, B flat minor. And they go with F minor, which is B, C, D, E, F, the 5. This is a very common thing in harmonic music. 1 and 5. Alright, now we take out, that's the end of the solo. We've got the groove. We've taken out the solo bass line. One thing I didn't mention before we do this modulation here is that throughout here, that I take the volume in and out. Let's see if I can show you the automation on that. Yeah, this shows you I take that in and out, and so it's in your ear, and then when it leaves, you're like barely aware that it's left. Here, I'll skip ahead. So you'll watch when it leaves, your ear is still filling it in, and then I bring out parts of it back. It's gonna fade. And you're barely aware that it's ever left. It's been going on for so long, your memory is filling in the blank. Now it's going to come back in. Just enough to remind your memory that it's still there, but we've thinned out the texture. Sort of preparing the brain to move somewhere else in the music. Little flits of that memory are coming in. And of course, me going through what I'm going through, I'm having little sparkles of memory of all the time I spent with my wife for 6 years, coming in and going out. And it's kind of still there, even though she's left. I haven't gotten to see her, just suddenly. And she says she never wants to see me. I don't know why. There's been times over the last few months I've woken up, like, reach out my hand, expecting her to be there. Oh, she's not there. But in my brain, she's been there for so long, that repetition, that daily waking up, the same person's there. It's like they're going to be there. I never took her for granted, or her presence for granted, but because it was repeated so many times, my brain, human bodies being habitual physical pattern recognizers, we're there with the pattern. Here, there's going to be no more of that. My brain is still filling it in. But I'm not actually hearing it. It's actually not there. It's taking a while for that to soak in my real life, but it's reflected here in the music. But we're going to go somewhere else. We're going to modulate to D minor. I've been in B flat minor long enough. We already tried changing up the feel and having the same thing, but it's gone. That ground, what I understood to be my vocation, is gone. We're going to go somewhere else. We got no choice. It's been taken from me. Okay. We let that bass line go. That's the first sign. We'll go somewhere else. If the close listener will hear that the pattern changed, a chord repeated, which hadn't happened at all before. Still going with the same pattern. When are we going to get a new chord? here we go. We're going somewhere else. Now, we get a fat bass line. Stay with that swing shuffle feel. Ooh. That sound you're hearing is bass bow on marimba. So here's the acoustic. That life-giving acoustic sound is going to take over. Fades out. Get another solo. And I'm going to pause it there so we can talk about some of this and I can show you. Yeah, we're someplace new. We got to move on. We got to go somewhere else. And this is, as I said, a reflection of my life. What was there is no longer there. And it was freely given. And then I never clung to her, so I was told her she was free to go. She's been talking about leaving for basically as long as we've been married. Was very afraid of being controlled but I never did. And she eventually said she's leaving. So, and that she's not open to discussing it, so there's no way for me to go back. So that's why, musically, that transition is reflected. No matter what the future holds, and I have no idea what it holds, even though all those memories of that, that bass line, it was mechanized, then sung, the feel was changed, variety and spontaneity and novelty were introduced. That foundation of who I knew I was, and being religious. As a Catholic, I understand vocation to be a calling from God and a primary vocation. Marriage being one of those life callings that's understood to be primary, something that takes precedence over other callings, like my musical calling. It's gone. I have no way to bring it back. It's very sad for me, and nevertheless, I have decided to keep living. Everyone around me says thank goodness, but I had to make the decision. in order to actually do it. And so we move on. And where do we go? Well, in the case of this music, we go to D minor. It sounds very funny. We are going to D minor. If anyone is a fan of Spinal Tap, what is his name? David St. Hubbins, I think is the character says, I always think of D minor as the saddest of all keys. Might as well go to D minor. And then play a marimba solo. Why not? That's what I studied in school for so many years, was percussion, and this is my specialty. So let's look at the accompaniment sound. Because I can't really dive into the solo too much. It was improvised. I did several takes of it. I can tell you that I have discovered in the last few years, especially thanks to Carrie Ann Chandler at NIU, who taught the recording techniques class, for teaching me all these recording techniques and showing us how she sets up microphones. Because, like, if nothing else was, I think the most valuable part of that class was learning microphone setups, learning different types of microphones, and watching her set up microphones. Because how you set up the microphone, what microphone you choose, makes the biggest difference in the sound. And the adjustments can be as small as this, and you have a pretty drastic change in the sound. So yeah, I used what they call an XY pattern. That's the microphone set up like this, and I had them over the top of the marimba. And so this microphone here picks up the high end. This microphone here picks up the low end. The advantage of this is that it has better what they call mono compatibility. So when you have a playback system that has a one speaker, and most people these days listen back to music on their cell phones, which are essentially, cell phones do technically play back in stereo. They have the here and down here they have speakers, but a lot of people are also listening back on just little single Bluetooth speakers, and that's a mono, one speaker. And here, even though you're recording with two microphones, you get a left input and a right input. It has good mono compatibility because the left and the right input are happening in nearly the same physical space. Compare that to spaced pairs. You get a good picture of the overall sound, but they're listening from different spots. Now that's kind of nice. If you have stereo headphones, you can get a good stereo sound. So like if you listen to my earlier marimba recordings on YouTube, this is before I had studied from Carrie Ann Chandler, one class I studied from her, but it was really valuable. And I was just like, did YouTube videos to pick those Shure SM57s, and was like, well, I want to hear the whole marimba, so if I do this, and the dynamic cardioid pattern looks like it picks up sound from here, picks up sound from here, so that gets the whole marimba. Now I'm using the XY pattern. We still get the whole marimba, we still get the stereo effect, the left to right, but now all those sounds are being collected from this point in space, right here, where the microphones are pointed in the different directions, and we have good mono compatibility. That's what I'm going to tell you about the solo itself. Otherwise, I'm really happy with how this solo turned out. This is the clip I used for my promo video. And after the fact, I was like, I need something to pair with this fat bass line. Where is the fat bass line? Here's the fat bass line. Listen to this. I'll show you one little thing on there. Believe it or not, these two little things here, there are these moments here. This is pitch bend. This is me trying to put some humanity into the sound of this MIDI bass. It is what they call the catgut bass. And you can see that it kind of sounds like an actual bass guitar. But when a real bass player is playing on a bass guitar, they're moving their fingers on the strings. And sometimes if they want to get some expression on the note, they put a little vibrato on that note. That one you can hear has a little bit of that sound of the vibrato. When the bass guitarist or string player is doing vibrato, they're stretching the string. They're kind of shortening it. They're going a little bit above the note. And so I use the pitch bend wheel. We're bending the pitch. All of these little dots are the inputs for me doing a little wiggle on the pitch bend wheel. I labored over this detail for probably longer than a work efficiency expert would say is advisable. Hold on, let me just do something real quick. That was a useless distraction. I labored over this detail for a little bit. I wanted to put vibrato on this note and this note, and I tried a bunch of different ways to artificially do it afterward. And I was thinking of putting some vibrato on this note. Ultimately, I just liked having it on the two moments. Let me just see something here. Notes. There's the C1. Oh, I think I just increased the volume on it. Go back to here. Oh yeah, that's what happened. Negative 7.2. You go to here. Negative 1.3 on the volume. With it louder, you can hear that pitch bend a little bit more. So I thought this bass line, this fat bass line, and just seeing what time it is, I'm going to refrain from talking about the construction of the bass line itself. I think I have another video showing me creating the bass line where I'm experimenting with, well, what if I do two notes at once? What if I do these bass chords, paying attention to what intervals work that low, because you get that low if certain intervals sound muddy and make it unclear. Ultimately, I just went with the single line. But when it came time to do this marimba solo, I was like, I could use some more timbral variety or something in this sound. And while I, in the creative process, recorded the second solo before the first, I ultimately switched the order of the two and put the marimba solo first. Use this detail again. Oh my gosh, so many details to share. I was like, let's bow the marimba. My little 8-year-old niece has been really curious about all the percussion instruments since I moved back with my parents, and she's been seeing me more, and she's been like, I haven't seen you much in the last 6 years that you were with your wife. I want to spend time with you. Let's see, I love playing drums. And she was really curious about the bass bows. Let me grab some. I'll grab one here. I'm really curious about these bass bows. I want to learn how to play them. And why are you playing bass bows on marimba? It's like, well, basically, the why is because it works and it sounds cool. But I was showing her how to do it, and she learned about tightening up the frog so you get the right tension and putting some rosin on there. And I came up with a line, a bass line to go along with the fat bass line. So what we're going to do is, let's do solo, 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 solo. And let's hear fat bass line from, oh, and solo. We'll go from here. So you have sort of a regularity with the bowed marimba. Very unclear attacks. Rhythm that's like certainly not on top of the beat, but that wobbly rhythm goes along with the solo. Let's see, let me loop all of this so that I can show it to you. I'm going to pause this though and show you what I did on the marimba. Let me change my camera angle here. Let's make sure you can see the marimba. Okay, yeah. So I had the marimba, moved out in the room a little bit, and I realized that the line that I wanted was not going to be possible to do. That was not going to be feasible for me to do. So what I did is pretended like I had two marimba players and just recorded them on two separate tracks. And I did 1 and 3, followed by 2 and 4, and I'll switch back to, oh, I have this camera. I should probably just get rid of that. It's kind of a cool view from above all my sticks and mallets. There we go. Lower down, move it on up here. Okay. Getting my video a little more professional looking. All right, go back to live. So you can see I have 1 and 3 bowed, 2 and 4 bowed. They're doubled. The reason the voices are doubled is just for volume balance reasons. You can see I had them 13 and 10 to the left, 13 and 10 to the left on both of these. I'm just fattening up the sound a little bit in the sound stage, because you can give a voice more presence in the mix by increasing the volume of it, but also by differentiating it in the left to right mix. That's how you can hear the different voices. If you need some more presence, you don't always have to add more volume. You can also adjust the panning, and that helps to make sure you're not peaking the master, spiking I should say, or whatever the right vocabulary word is. All right, let's see how this is. So the first line, I bowed. Yum, hum, yum, hum, yum, so I just did that. And then I went back once I got that as groovy as I wanted it to be, and as I showed you, it's not lining up very clearly with the rhythm, and that's okay because the solo is very wobbly anyway. And I've already told you sort of the creative background of why that is. It's like starting something new. The first steps are going to have some trepidation in them. That's the character of the music. That's the creative reason behind it. That's why not only do I not care that it's not perfectly lined up, I don't even want it to be perfectly lined up. It wouldn't serve the same creative purpose. Okay, so that's the first one, and that interacts with ho, ho, and then the next ho, 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 ho. Okay, and then when you combine those two, you have bo, 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 ho, 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 ho. So that's how I made those. Just did 2 separate tracks, imagining that I had a section of percussionists, and then with the assistance of digital recording, it's easy to record multiple tracks. And there, I have 2 percussionists. It just happens to be that they are both me asynchronously. That said, I really do want to work with a live person. There's a wonderful synergy that can emerge from creatively collaborating with another human being. It just cannot happen by yourself. Make sure there's no one else chatting here. All right. Yeah. I'll have to figure out this YouTube chat later. Now that you have that background mind, let's listen to this again. I can put all sorts of expression into playing a live instrument that I had to sort of manufacture with an electronic instrument. That timbral variety, that dynamic variety. And being on an instrument that I practiced for over 20 years, I have a lot more facility with it. We'll look at the pitch material when we get to the electronic instrument solo that follows. I use the same sort of target note, the same target note mentality in this marimba solo that I did in the other one. Alright, we don't have to loop here, we can just keep on going. This doubling here is to give it some more presence. Then I fade out the bowed marimba. It's like, oh, that was a nice short 1.5 minute or 2 minute solo. We're just going to take another solo. For this one, all of that orchestration work that you saw me do in the first 2 solos where I doubled at the octave, I did it here by copying the same solo onto 3 different electronic instruments, and then messing around with the dynamic shape of each solo. So let me show you the automations here. pitch bend. This one, maybe I gotta go over here. Let me loop this. There we go. Yeah, track volume. So this is the main voice. This is, as you can see, an instrumental sound I only used for this solo. Same operator program, different sound design. Here it's 4 individual waves all blending together. So this one is kind of easier to see here how this functions. So here's just a sine wave, or this is the overtone balance that I created. Here the second level is a sine wave. You can see the loudest one is that first one. This is the second level of that mixture. Here is below that, and I have a fixed pitch. It's always 440 hertz, which is A, and then we have that's a fifth above, so that's an E. So every single note has an A and an E in it. The pitch bend wheel adjusts the frequency of the filter. That's this right here, what is being filtered. And so you can hear as it's filtered, sometimes as that is modulated, sometimes the frequency of that E is being filtered out. So these are essentially drones. That's why they're much quieter. And here's the full here's the full mix of those 4 waves. So we had 3 sine waves, 2 of which are drones. 1 which is just a pure sound, a little bit quieter than the main wave, which is something I built with these balance of overtones just manually done. Now, what I was going to show you is the orchestration I did. This voice is always present. So you see the track volume starts 2.7, is boosted up a little bit, and then at the climax of the solo, it's boosted up here. This shape here, by the way, it's an automated shape. It's an insert shape. You can't really draw this sort of curve shape. You can only insert it as a geometric shape. Now let's look. This solo is copied and pasted 3 times into 3 different voices. Here, this voice, you don't hear anything right here because I lowered it. This is the same as the underwater operator. That's that chromatic solo from earlier with all the descending chromatic lines. By the way, chromatic is every single note, not just the ones that are within a key. And here that voice disappears, and then it's going to climb to barely audible. Now here's this one. This one is, this is track panning automated, but oh, it's just moved this over to the left. And this one's going, it's just off to the left, essentially like you have the main voice. Here, let's put both of those on. So you can hear that main voice is in the center, and then off to the left, you have this extra sound that's like a little bit quieter and echoing it. The other thing is that this mod wheel, this data is copied as well, but it does different things on the different digital instruments. So this one here. Let's see, one other thing. So here we're in the C4 octave. Here we're in the C2 octave. And then here we are in the C4 octave. So that's how I get this full sort of soli section with a rhythmic freedom that would be really hard to imitate with live instruments. This is something that really is an advantage of electronic instruments. You can record a solo and copy it exactly onto a bunch of different voices. So with acoustic instruments, this would be an unbelievably impressive feat if you had like 3 people playing this rhythmically free sound exactly in unison. Even though they don't sound like they're exactly in unison, because remember the attack has a different length on each of these electronic instruments, but the MIDI data is exactly lined up. It's just the instruments speak at different rates. Now if I wanted to make them line up, I could adjust the track delay. I'm not going to get into that detail right now because I didn't decide to do that on this song. And here's how it lines up with that fat bass line. Alright, so you can see a lot of thought and work and labor went into these 4 minor key sections: G minor, B flat minor, D minor, and D minor, G minor, B flat minor, both in the 4/4 straight groove, then the B flat minor swing groove or shuffle into the D minor. A lot of thought went into these 4 sort of darker sections, and altogether they make up about 18 minutes of the 30 minutes of music. The last third of the piece, I recorded all of this. All this material was recorded the morning of the bike ride, May 31st. So the last third was done on the last day. The first 2/3 took most of the 2 weeks. So I recorded the last bit. And I was like, we're gonna switch into Latin feel because I live in Elgin. There's a lot of Latinos here and a lot of people want to have Latin feel. We're gonna double the speed because I don't want to be a Debbie Downer forever. It's a celebratory bike ride. We want to have something to cheer about on the way home. And do live acoustic instruments. And we're going to do G major. You heard me talk about 5 and 1 being important. Well, if D is the 5 of G minor, it's also the 5 of G major. So you essentially in music, 1 tonal music in Western tonal harmony theory, basically. 1 is the home. 5 is like the home away from home, the furthest from home. It feels like another home, but it's going somewhere. It's like the journey place. And then we're going to return home with G, but we're transformed. We were in G minor at the beginning, we're in G major at the end. This transformation, minor to major, is straight out of Beethoven. Darkness to light. It's a tried and true harmonic progression. And this is just percussion fun. Rattle's going to tell us. Rattle's telling us something new is happening. And here again, I just did that old style direct modulation by taking all the pitch material out and just moving to a new key. And again, I did all this the morning of, so I was like, I don't have time to be sitting here figuring out a modulation. Let me take a look at the bass stump, because I think I adjusted the pitch. Yep. Yeah, let's solo this voice. So, this number here is the half steps, this is the cents. That's the micro adjustments in between. You'll notice that here, the D minor, -1 half step, and 25 cents lower. We get down to here, -4 half steps, and 25 cents lower. So 25 cents lower on each, you can ignore that, and just think of -1. So remember, the original pitch of the Bowron was B, -1 half steps. Took us to B flat. B flat fit with the key of G minor, because it was the third, G, A, B flat. Fit with B flat minor, it was the 1. Fit with D minor, it was the 6th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It does not fit with G major, because what distinguishes G major from G minor? At least in the chord, G, B flat D is a G minor chord, G, B natural D is a G major chord. And so, I was like, let's move it to G, and let's listen to the difference between that and there. And D minor groove, make the transition. E, D, D, E, B. That's B flat, B flat, B flat, B flat, B flat, and then G, D, G. So -4 half steps. If B flat was -1, 2, 3, 4, we end up on G. Now, as I said, I doubled the speed for this section. So what you can see is when I hear this, bum, 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 bum. This is actually +3. So B flat was -1, 0 is B, 1, 2, 3 is D. Oh, we have 1, 5. Remember, I've been talking about 1 and 5. G, A, B flat, C, D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bum, 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 bum. Let's hear how that works with G minor, or G major. So even though it's just percussion instruments here, we've already switched keys. the bass drums are no longer doing B flat, B flat, B flat, B flat, B flat, B flat, big fat B flat. They're now going D, G, D, G, D, G, D, G, D, G, D. And if you've got your headphones in here, you can hear that it's going side to side. Then the bass line comes in, and we know that it's exactly where we need it to be. Let's see if there's anything with the panning. No, I don't see anything. Nothing automated with that. Let me just see something. So, it's actually it feels to my ears like it's going. It's actually God. Front, back. I thought it was side to side. Anyway, it has a lot of motion. Let's look at all the percussion instruments I use. I've been looking for a reason to use this instrument for a really long time. My wife was really good at peeling clementines, the entire clementine in one peel, and I was like, that's amazing. I want to dry it out and hear how it sounds when I have a bunch of them made into a shaker. This is a pretty fragile instrument. These are the peels I destroyed making this piece. And I destroyed a few others traveling from the place I used to share with my wife at her parents' house here. Anytime I've traveled, I've lost peels, but I can always just replenish this by eating some clementines and drying out the peels. But listen to this sound. Let's see if I can find where I have some clementine peels. Clementine peels, here we go. Listen to this sound. I think they call this ASMR. I don't know what that stands for. That sounds a whole lot like, wait, no, ASMR is attack, sustain, wait, ASDR. ASDR is attack, sustain, decay, release, which is that thing I was showing you about the electronic instruments. I don't know what ASMR means, but I've heard people use that for sounds that are really close up and very tactile. Can't get that hung up with being attached to my headphones. All right, so I've been wanting to find a reason to use those clementine peels for a long time, and even though they remind me of my wife, that's almost more reason to use them so that I can sort of reclaim the sounds, a sound that was associated with her, and repurpose it and integrate it, just as I'm integrating all the pain of the discard and moving it to a new direction with my life. And here it is in context with everything else. Now, mini bongos solo. Check out these little bongos. And these little things. When I got these for Christmas from my sister, I usually don't like receiving instruments as gifts because I very carefully choose my instruments and I want them to have particular sounds, and not only that, I have limited space, so any new instrument added to my room is a huge burden for me to figure out where am I going to put this thing. I don't have lots of extra space. But when I tried these out, I was like, oh, these are actually real instruments. This isn't a toy like I initially thought it was. Here it is. Very cool high-pitched sound that can sit over the top of all sorts of other instruments. Though I did take out a few instruments from the mix in order to be able to hear the solo a little more clearly. Let me see something on this. Okay. I wanted to see if I had decay on my ratchet sound, which I do. And reverb. I got maracas. I put together a bunch of bells. Turn my camera, you can see my bells sections. See what you can see. Yeah, I got a whole bunch of bells. I grabbed a collection of these and just shook them like they're a regular shaker. And I had the maracas. I had learned some cool maraca. I was watching Nathaniel Guerra at NIU, one of the steel pan composition majors. And it's like, hey man, your maraca playing sounds amazing. You show me what you're doing, because I don't play maracas like you. This is just my best imitation of him. I don't sound nearly as awesome as he does, but just pretending like some of the things I saw him doing. I got the bells. Let's see. Then the cajon solo. This cajon, I have a lot of stories of people giving me things. That could be an episode of itself. This cajon used to belong to a former student who he was primarily an organist at church, but he studied percussion with me for a little bit before I lived in the monastery, and when he went to college, he had stopped playing percussion. His mom said, you can have the cajon if you want. And I said, well, sure. I know I'll put it to good use. And here it is. So there's cajon solo. Yeah, I should do like a little episode about all the gifts people have given me to help me continue being a musician. Let's see, cajon solo, back and front. I put a microphone in the back and one in the front. And when you're recording the same surface from two different sides, you're recording the same wave, because remember, boom, a wave comes out in a sphere from wherever it is attacked, especially like a percussion, but any sound wave, boom, it goes out in all directions, and then it runs into stuff and gets all complex from there, but it goes out in all those directions, and it's going in all these directions. If you hit it from two different sides, you're going to get sounds so crazy, but you're going to get the same sound in two different phases of the sound wave. So if you have a 0 and it goes above and below that 0 point, you're going in this direction, and you have a microphone picking up the sound. It's picking it up on the upper side of the wave. You're going from here, it's picking up that same sound wave, but from this vantage, that's actually the lower part of the wave. And so if you don't flip one of the wave patterns, you end up getting two sounds where one is high, one is above, and one is below. And they literally zero out, and you end up getting very little sound. Just like I said, you get some sound because the waves are complex, but the overall shape of the wave is opposite because you're seeing it from below and above. Crazy cool phenomenon, but you gotta flip it. That's what this thing does here. Utility. I just think that's such a cool sonic phenomenon. And here the solo's done. The mini bongo solo, the cajon solo, and I'm like, I want to be at least 30 minutes. Let's bring back some of the stuff from the beginning, the mouth pops, the mouth drums. Oh, what the heck? Let's just play the mini bongo solos again. This is memorable enough. We need some repetition. And then at the end, I bring back the cajon solo. It's like, what do these two solos sound like on top of each other? Basically a duet. And the nice thing about drums, I think, is you can put them both together. It's quite straightforward to improvise multiple drums together because you don't have to be lining up pitch. There's no clams when you're playing drums. You might play things out of rhythm or whatever. You might play things that you don't want to. It can sound lame. But if you're in the groove, you can have two drummers playing and it's going to sound coherent and good. And you can hit a wrong drum and it's not going to sound wrong. So there's not really a wrong note. I've got two bongos. Do I hit the high bongo or the low bongo? Do I hit a center sound or an edge sound? It's not, do I hit a B flat or a B? And if I hit the wrong one, it's going to sound like... It's not as sensitive. There's a much lower bar of entry for percussion. When I did these two solos, I was not playing the other solo in my headphone. It was independent solos interacting with this bass line. They sound fine. They sound exciting when they're played together. Because as I did the solos, in the moment I'm emphasizing different parts of the beat, and they just interact with one another. It's a party. It's a whole lot like bicycling down the street with a big group. Amazingly, you got 50 people. Nobody's ever biked together before. Now, all of us have this, like, spatial awareness pre-programmed into our brains by, I always think, divine design, and we can navigate without bumping into each other. Nobody fell or ran into each other. I was biking, holding my camera, holding my phone up with two hands. There's people cracking beers, just having a good time. And, you know, some folks might say, oh, that's drinking and driving. It's not. It's bicycling and drinking. Bicycles are not cars. And then it just fades out. And here it is. You know, drums, like bicycles, they have low points of entry. Lots of people can play them. Some people can really master them. They're really fun. They're really good for your health. They're good for your body. And this is music that was written Once in a Blue Moon, written for a bicycling event, May 31st, 2026. And at a time in my life when I'm processing lots of things. And this tool here, Ableton, is another thing that helps lower the bar of entry. I'm not a pianist, not a keyboard player, and I can use this keyboard because I have some percussion training. I have lots of years of percussion training, but percussion has a keyboard. I've done music theory teaching and that sort of thing, and I have enough skills on the keyboard to move around and navigate things. It lowers the bar of entry for me. Other people can dive in and get creative with this software too. And you don't need to have the professional version of this software either to create. I'll probably do another one of these exploration episodes about what I created with the software that came packaged with this audio interface. This Focusrite stereo audio interface. You got 2 inputs. This is all, I still haven't upgraded from this. I've had this for like 6 years now. It came packaged with Ableton Live Lite, and I could do up to 8 tracks. Back in the 1970s, 8 tracks was like, oh my gosh, you could do 8 tracks? That's amazing. Look at how many things we can do with 8 different tracks on a single tape. Well, now we have unlimited if you want to get the professional version of the software. I can just keep adding tracks. This is literally 40 tracks of audio that I used making this. I haven't gone into every detail, but I've covered a good variety of the details that went into the creative process and some of the mechanics. If you like this sort of detail, I can give lessons on this sort of stuff. I'm working on setting up lessons on my website. Once I do, you could sign up easily. As of right now, you could just go on my website, joebearback.com, send me a message on the contact me. We could set it up. We could do it over Zoom. We could do it in person. I live in Elgin, Illinois. You don't live in Elgin? We can do it over Zoom. And, we can get any sort of composition, music theory, percussion. Those are my areas of expertise. I have degrees in percussion performance, 8 years of college study in percussion performance, a master's degree, 2 years in music composition, plus all the years of experience. I've been using Ableton Live since 2020, so that's like 6 years experience with this. Did study Gregorian chant and Latin, ecclesial Latin for a year and a half, living in the monastery. And you've heard some of my music, so let's see if anyone's here. No, not right now. Yeah, it's electronic, Rico. Thanks for coming in, Rico. We got 2 people watching right now. Anyone who's here, thank you. I'm about to wrap it up as I just finished exploring this piece. I'm going to leave this live stream up for a few more weeks, and then I'll shift it over, make it exclusive on Patreon, as I'm trying to encourage people to subscribe to my Patreon, patreon.com/joebearback. And I guess I should put that in my description on YouTube. I'll make sure to do that next week. And figure out how to sign in here, so maybe I can move that chat box around. I still just have one monitor here, so I'm switching between views. But yeah, we'll get this live streaming thing happening. I'll plan to be back next Wednesday at noon. And if any of you who are watching this asynchronously like a better time, shoot me a message, either in the comments or through the contact me form on joebearback.com. And I'll keep getting better at doing live stream, but The music is always here and it's all around us. We got shakers everywhere. This came in desiccant, throw away, do not eat thing. It's a little shaker. I have a whole collection of weird shakers and a bunch of weird instruments. I'm gonna put in parentheses. As a percussionist, the whole world is an instrument. Now it's time for me to eat lunch. Hope you all have a good day. And yes, I'm going to use my catchphrase here. So, as always, remember Joe Baroback music. Listen and wonder. All right. Stop recording. Stop streaming. Here we go.